Princess stood at the large window of her command ship and looked down at the burning planet below. Antares Prime was dying. The human colony that had stood there for 50 years was almost gone. Fires burned across the surface like orange flowers blooming in the darkness. She felt nothing but cold satisfaction. They had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They were tall and beautiful, with silver eyes and skin that shimmered like moonlight. They lived for 500 years, sometimes more. They had built great cities among the stars when humans were still living in caves on their tiny blue planet called Earth. And now these humans dared to challenge them. Turned away from the window and walked to her command chair. Her long white hair flowed behind her like water. She was young by standards, only 120 years old. But she was also the daughter of Emperor, and she had been trained for war since she could walk. "Status report," she said. Her voice was calm and cold. Her second-in-command, an older male named Bora, stepped forward. "The humans have retreated underground, Princess. Our bombardment has destroyed 80% of their surface structures. They cannot hold much longer." "How many remain?" "Our scanners detect approximately 15,000 life signs, mostly civilians. Their military forces have been reduced to less than 500 soldiers." Nodded slowly. 500 soldiers against her fleet of 30 warships and 10,000 warriors. It was not even a fair fight. It was an execution. "They have held out for 3 months," she said. "That is impressive for vermin." Bora made a sound of agreement. "They are stubborn creatures, but stubbornness means nothing against superior firepower." Had been taught since childhood that humans were dangerous not because they were strong, but because they bred so quickly. A female might have 2 children in her entire life. A human female could have 10. They spread across the galaxy like a disease, taking planets that did not belong to them, building colonies where they had no right to be. Her father had decided that enough was enough. The human expansion had to stop, and it would stop here at Antares Prime. "Prepare the ground forces," commanded. "We will finish this tonight. I want no survivors." Bora bowed and left to carry out her orders. Sat in her chair and closed her silver eyes. She thought about the celebration that would follow her victory. Her father would be proud. Her older brother, Prince, would be jealous. That thought made her smile just a little. She did not know that in the dark corridors of her own ship, death was already walking toward her. Captain moved through the air vents like a ghost. Behind him, 11 soldiers followed in complete silence. They had trained for this mission for 2 weeks, ever since they had captured a shuttle and learned the layout of the command ship. Was 32 years old. He had been fighting since he was 18 when they had destroyed his home world. He had lost his parents, his sister, and everyone he had ever loved. He had nothing left but the fight. His soldiers were the same. They were all orphans of war, survivors of destroyed colonies. They called themselves the Last Hope because that was exactly what they were. The plan was simple but insane. Board the enemy flagship, capture the princess, use her as a hostage to stop the bombardment. It was the kind of plan that only desperate people would try. They dropped from the ceiling vents into a corridor full of guards. The battle was short and brutal. Human weapons fired in rapid bursts. Bodies fell to the floor. The guards had not expected an attack inside their own ship. By the time they understood what was happening, it was too late. Stepped over the bodies without looking down. He had stopped feeling guilty about killing a long time ago. This was war. This was survival. "Bridges ahead," he said through his helmet radio. "Remember the plan. We need the princess alive. Everyone else is fair game." They moved forward. The bridge doors were thick and heavy, but the explosives they had brought were military grade. The blast tore the doors open like paper. Smoke and fire filled the entrance. Was the first one through. Princess was standing in front of her command chair, a plasma pistol in her hand. Her silver eyes were wide with shock, but her hand was steady. She fired twice. One of soldiers fell with a hole burned through his chest. Did not hesitate. He dove to the side, rolled, and came up behind a console. Around him, his soldiers engaged the bridge crew. Plasma bolts flew through the air like angry fireflies. "Princess," shouted, "surrender and no one else has to die." Her answer was another plasma bolt that burned the console inches from his head. He had to admit she had courage. Most royalty he had encountered were soft and weak, used to having others fight for them. This princess was different. But courage did not matter when you were outnumbered. Within minutes, the bridge was secured. 8 officers lay dead on the floor. The princess was on her knees, her pistol taken away, her hands bound behind her back. 2 of soldiers held her arms. Walked toward her slowly. He removed his helmet and let her see his face. He wanted her to see that he was human. He wanted her to understand that the vermin she had been taught to despise had just beaten her elite guards. His face was young but tired, with dark eyes that had seen too much death. A scar ran from his left eyebrow to his cheek, a gift from a blade 3 years ago. "Princess of the Empire," he said, "you are now a prisoner of the human resistance." She looked up at him with hatred burning in her silver eyes. "You will die for this. My father will hunt you down. My brother will tear your fleet apart." Smiled, but there was no joy in it. "Your fleet just lost its commander. Your father is 10 light years away. And your brother," he shrugged, "he can try." He knelt down so his eyes were level with hers. "Here is what is going to happen. You are coming with us to the surface. As long as we have you, your ships will not dare to continue the bombardment. You are going to save the lives of 15,000 people who you were planning to murder tonight." "They are humans," she spat. "They are nothing. Stood up to you maybe, but to me they are everything." He turned to his soldiers. "Get her to the shuttle, we are leaving." As they dragged her away, Princess looked back at her fallen officers, at her ruined bridge, at everything she had lost in the span of 10 minutes. She had come to this planet to destroy the human colony. Instead, she had become their prisoner. And somewhere deep inside her chest, beneath the hatred and the pride, she felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt fear. The underground tunnels of Antares Prime were dark and cold. Water dripped from the stone ceiling. The air smelled like smoke and fear. This was where the last survivors of the human colony had hidden when the bombs started falling. Princess walked through these tunnels with her hands still bound, surrounded by human soldiers who watched her with hatred in their eyes. She kept her head high and her face calm. She would not show weakness to these creatures. Captain walked ahead of her, leading the way through the maze of passages. He had not spoken to her since they left the ship. He moved with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where he was going. They passed through a large metal door and entered a cavern that made stop in surprise. It was a city, an entire city built underground. Thousands of humans lived here in structures made of metal and stone. Children ran through the narrow streets. Old women cooked food over small fires. Men and women in dirty clothes carried supplies from one building to another. The ceiling was covered with artificial lights that gave everything a pale yellow glow. Everyone stopped to stare at as she passed. She heard whispers. She heard curses. She saw mothers pulling their children away from her as if she was a monster. "Murderer," someone shouted from the crowd. "Killer of Bobbies," another voice screamed. A stone flew through the air and hit on the shoulder. She did not make a sound, but the pain was sharp. Turned around quickly. "Enough," he shouted. His voice was loud and commanding. "She is a prisoner, not a target. Anyone who attacks her will answer to me." The crowd went quiet, but their hatred did not disappear. It simply became silent. They continued walking until they reached a small building near the back of the cavern. Inside, there were several rooms with beds and tables. It was simple but clean. pointed to a small room with a single bed and a chair. "This is where you will stay. You will not be harmed as long as you do not try to escape." Looked at the tiny room with disgust. "You expect me to live like this, like an animal?" "Animals do not get beds," replied. "You are lucky to be alive, princess. Many of my people wanted me to kill you on the ship. I am choosing to keep you alive because you are useful. Do not make me regret that choice." He cut the ropes around her wrists and left the room. The door closed behind him and heard a lock click into place. She stood alone in the darkness, rubbing her sore wrists. She had never felt so helpless in her entire life. The days passed slowly. Was given food twice a day. Simple food that tasted like nothing she had ever eaten before. Bread that was hard and dry. Vegetables that were overcooked. Water that tasted like metal. She ate because she had to survive, not because she wanted to. Sometimes a young human woman came to check on her. Her name was, and she was barely 20 years old. She had kind eyes and a soft voice, and she treated with a respect that surprised her. "Are you comfortable?" asked one morning. Laughed bitterly. "I am a prisoner in a cave. I am eating food that my servants would refuse to touch. I am surrounded by people who want me dead. No, I am not comfortable." Nodded slowly. "My family died in the first bombing, my mother, my father, my two little brothers." She paused and looked directly at. "I should hate you. Part of me does hate you. But Captain says we must be better than our enemies. He says if we become monsters to fight monsters, then we have already lost." She placed a fresh bowl of food on the table and left without another word. Stared at the door for a long time after she was gone. As the weeks passed, began to see things she had never noticed before. She was allowed to leave her room sometimes, always with guards watching her. She walked through the underground city and observed the humans living their desperate lives. She saw a mother singing a lullaby to her crying baby, even though there was no food left for dinner. She saw an old man teaching children how to read using books that were burned and damaged. She saw soldiers who had lost arms and legs laughing together over a game of cards. These people had nothing. They were starving. They were dying. Every day the bombs fell on the surface above them, shaking the walls of their underground home. They knew they could not win this war. But they did not give up. One night, heard music coming from the main cavern. She asked her guards to take her there, and they agreed. She found hundreds of humans gathered together. Someone was playing an instrument made of wood and strings. A young man was singing a song about a lost love. People were dancing, holding each other close, moving to the music. They were celebrating. In the middle of a war they were losing, they were celebrating. "Why?" asked her guard. "Why are they happy when they are going to die?" The guard, an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, looked at her for a moment. "Because they are still alive today, and today is all any of us have." Did not understand. She could not understand. They did not think like this. Her people planned for centuries. They calculated every move. They did not waste time on celebration when there was work to be done. But watching these humans dance in the face of death, she felt something strange in her chest. Something that felt almost like admiration. Captain found her standing at the edge of the celebration, watching. "You look confused," he said, standing beside her. "I am," she admitted. "Your people are dying, your colony is being destroyed. You have no hope of victory, yet they dance, they sing, they laugh. It makes no sense." Was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke softly. "When I was a boy, my grandmother used to tell me stories about Earth. She said that humans have always faced impossible situations. Wars, plagues, natural disasters. And every time we survived not because we were the strongest but because we refused to stop hopping." He looked at the dancing crowd. "Hope is not logical, princess. You cannot measure it or calculate it, but it is the most powerful thing we have. Take away our food, our weapons, our homes, and we will still survive as long as we have hope." shook her head. Hope is for fools. Maybe, said, but fools who believe in something are more dangerous than wise men who believe in nothing. He walked away to join his people, leaving alone with thoughts that troubled her more than she wanted to admit. That night, lying on her small bed in her tiny room, thought about everything she had seen. She thought about and her dead family. She thought about the old man teaching children. She thought about the humans dancing in the darkness. She had been taught her entire life that humans were inferior, weak, stupid, worthy only of conquest and death. But what she had seen in this underground city was not weakness. It was something else, something that her people had forgotten long ago. It was the will to live. And for the first time in her 120 years of life, Princess began to wonder if everything she believed was wrong. Woke up one morning and could not breathe properly. Her chest felt tight. Her head was spinning. When she tried to stand, her legs gave out and she fell to the cold stone floor. She called for help, but her voice was weak. No one heard her. When came to bring breakfast, she found lying on the ground, her silver skin now pale gray. Her breathing was shallow and fast. She was dying. Captain screamed, "Captain, come quickly." Within minutes, the small room was filled with people. A human doctor examined with worried eyes. He checked her pulse, listened to her lungs, looked into her silver eyes. "It is the atmosphere," he said finally. "The air down here is different from what she needs. Her body is slowly being poisoned. Without proper medicine, she will die within a week." Stood at the doorway, his face serious. "What kind of medicine?" "Medicine. Something that will help her body process our atmosphere. We do not have anything like that here." Everyone looked at lying helpless on the bed. Some of them looked happy. The monster who had killed their families was finally getting what she deserved. But did not look happy, he looked troubled. "There is a medical ship that crashed in the Eastern Valley 3 weeks ago," he said slowly. "Our scouts reported it. There might be medicine there." The doctor shook his head. "Captain, that area is too dangerous. Patrols search there every day. You would not make it back alive." "Then she dies," one of the soldiers said. "Good, let her die. Why should we risk our lives for her?" Several others nodded in agreement. Was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke in a voice that was quiet but firm. "Because we are not like them. Because if we let prisoners die when we can save them, we become the monsters they think we are." He looked at, she was barely conscious, her silver eyes half closed. She looked small and fragile on the human bed, not like a princess, not like an enemy, just like a person who was afraid to die. "I will go alone," said. "No one else has to risk their life. This is my choice." The others tried to argue, but his mind was made up. Within an hour he was gone. Drifted in and out of consciousness. She dreamed of her home world, of crystal forests and silver rivers. She dreamed of her father and her brother. She dreamed of a life that seemed so far away now. When she opened her eyes, she saw sitting beside her bed. "Where is he?" whispered. "Where is the captain?" His eyes were red from crying. "He went to find medicine for you. He has been gone for 2 days." 2 days, felt something strange in her heart, something like worry, something like guilt. "Why?" she asked. "Why would he risk his life for me?" Did not answer at first. She just held his hand, which was so cold it felt like ice. "Because he is a good man," finally said. "Better than anyone I have ever known. He lost everything in this war. His family, his friends, his home. But he never lost his humanity. He says that is the one thing that can never take from us." Closed her eyes. She thought about all the humans she had ordered killed, all the colonies she had destroyed, all the families she had torn apart. And now one of those humans was risking his life to save her. She had never felt so ashamed. On the 3rd day, returned. He came through the tunnel entrance covered in blood. His left shoulder burned from a plasma blast. He could barely walk, but in his hands he carried a small metal box filled with medicine. "I found it," he said, and then he collapsed. The doctor worked quickly. He gave the medicine, and within hours her breathing became easier. Her color returned. She was going to live. When she was strong enough to sit up, she asked to see. They brought her to another room where he was lying on a bed, his shoulder wrapped in bandages. He looked pale and weak, but he was alive. Sat beside him for a long time without speaking. Finally, she found her voice. "Why?" she asked. It was the same question she had asked so many times before, but this time it meant something different. "Why did you almost die for me?" Opened his eyes and looked at her. He seemed surprised to see her there. "My grandmother used to say something," he said slowly. "She said that how we treat our enemies says more about us than how we treat our friends." "That is foolish," said, but her voice had no anger in it, only confusion. "Maybe," agreed. "But if I let you die when I could save you, what would I be fighting for? Just revenge, just killing. That is not enough. That has never been enough." He reached out and took her hand. His fingers were warm against her cold skin. "I am fighting for the idea that we can be better, that humans can be kind even when others are cruel, that we can love even when others hate." He paused. "If I lose that, then they have already won." Felt tears forming in her eyes. She had not cried since she was a child. She did not know she still could. "I have killed so many of your people," she whispered. "I have destroyed so many lives. How can you not hate me?" Smiled just a little. "I did hate you. When I first captured you, I wanted to kill you. Every time I looked at you, I saw the ships that bombed my home. I saw my parents dying in the fire." "What changed?" "I watched you," he said. "I saw you looking at our people. I saw confusion in your eyes, not hatred. I saw someone who was taught to believe lies, just like I was taught to believe lies about the... We are not so different, princess. We are both victims of a war we did not start." Let the tears fall. She did not try to hide them. "I do not deserve your kindness," she said. "No one deserves kindness," replied. "That is what makes it kindness." In the days that followed, as recovered and healed, something changed between them. They talked for hours every day. He told her about Earth and its blue oceans. She told him about and its eternal twilight. He taught her human games using cards and dice. She taught him poetry, translating the beautiful words into his language. She laughed for the first time in decades. He smiled in a way that reached his eyes. And one evening, in the quiet of the medical room, with artificial stars glowing on the ceiling above them, leaned forward and kissed her. Did not pull away. For the first time in her long life, she understood what the humans meant when they talked about hope. It was not foolishness. It was not weakness. It was the most powerful force in the universe. And it had captured her heart completely. The warships appeared in the sky like angry gods. 50 of them, more firepower than had ever brought to Antares Prime. They blocked out the stars and cast shadows across the entire planet. Prince had come for his sister. In the underground city, alarms screamed through every tunnel. People ran in panic, grabbing their children, gathering their few belongings. They knew what those ships meant. They knew death had finally arrived. Stood in the command center, watching the scanner screens with a face made of stone. His officers surrounded him, all of them wearing the same expression of hopeless determination. "We cannot fight that," one of them said quietly. "We have 6 ships left, 6 against 50. "We do not fight," replied. "We survive. Get everyone deeper into the tunnels. The new shelters can withstand orbital bombardment." "For how long?" Did not answer. They all knew the truth. They would not stop this time. They would dig through the entire planet if they had to. They would burn every rock until nothing remained. Burst into the command center, pushing past the guards who tried to stop her. "He is here for me," she said. "My brother. He is not like our father. He is cruel and ambitious. He does not care about winning the war. He only cares about bringing me back so he can take credit for the rescue." looked at her. In the months since her capture, she had changed. Her silver eyes, once cold and proud, now held warmth and pain. She wore human clothes because her own had been damaged. Her white hair was tied back in a simple style the human women had taught her. She looked less like a princess now. She looked like someone who belonged here. "What are you saying?" he asked. "I am saying that if I surrender, if I go to him willingly, he might leave your people alone. He will have what he wants. There will be no reason to destroy the colony." "No," the word came from like a weapon. "Absolutely not." "It is the only way," insisted. "I cannot watch more people die because of me. Not your people, not anymore." Crossed the room and took her shoulders in his hands. His eyes burned with an intensity she had never seen before. "Listen to me," he said. "You are not their property anymore. You are not a princess to be traded. You are the woman who sat with sick children in the medical bay. You are the woman who learned to cook human food even though you burned everything. You are the woman I love." The room went silent. Everyone stared at them. "You love me," whispered. "More than I have ever loved anything," replied. "And I will die before I let them take you." Before could respond, an explosion shook the tunnels. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. "They are bombing the entrance," someone shouted. And then the alarms changed. A new warning: ground troops detected. They were coming down. The battle started at the main tunnel entrance. Human soldiers fought with everything they had, but they were outnumbered 10-1. They pushed forward slowly, their plasma rifles cutting through the resistance like fire through paper. Fought at the front, his weapon never stopping, his voice shouting orders through the chaos. Beside him fought two, using a human rifle she had learned to fire in secret. She killed her own people. Each shot was a wound in her soul, but she had made her choice. She belonged here now with these humans, with... They retreated deeper into the tunnels, losing ground with every minute. The wounded piled up. The dead were left behind. And then they stopped advancing. A voice echoed through the tunnels, amplified by speakers. It was a voice knew well. "Sister," Prince said, "I know you are there. I have come to take you home. Father is worried about you. He misses his little princess." Felt sick, did not care about her, he never had. To him she was just a tool, a stepping stone to more power. "Surrender yourself," continued, "and I will let these humans live. Continue fighting and I will kill every single one of them. You have 1 hour to decide." The speakers went silent. In the command center everyone looked at, some with hope, some with suspicion, some with fear. "Do not even think about it," said. But was thinking. She was thinking about the children she had seen playing in the tunnels. She was thinking about in her kind eyes. She was thinking about the old man who taught reading. These people had shown her what humanity meant. Not the species, but the quality. The ability to love strangers. The ability to hope against impossible odds. The ability to forgive enemies. She could not let them die. That night while slipped out of the shelter. She walked through the quiet tunnels toward the lines. Her heart was breaking, but her mind was clear. She was almost at the front line when a hand grabbed her arm. It was. "I knew you would try this," the young woman said. "I followed you." "Let me go," said. "This is the only way." "No, it is not," pressed something into his hand. It was a small data chip. "This is everything: troop positions, fleet movements, the location of the command ship reactor core. I have been gathering intelligence for months." Stared at the chip in shock. "How?" "We intercepted communications. We decoded their messages. We did not tell you because we did not trust you." Paused. "But I trust you now. If you want to save us, do not surrender. Help us fight." Looked at the chip, then back toward the tunnels where was sleeping. She thought about everything she had learned about humans, their hope, their courage, their refusal to give up. And she made her choice. She walked back to the command center. She woke. She showed him the data chip and explained what it contained. "With this," she said, "we can attack my brother's command ship. We can destroy the reactor. Without the flagship, the fleet will fall apart." Studied the data, his eyes widening. This could work. It is insane, but it could work. "I know my brother," said. "He is arrogant. He thinks he has already won. He will not expect an attack." Looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, that smile she had come to love more than anything. "You are not surrendering," he said. "No," she replied. "I am fighting for my people, my new people." She took his hand and held it tight. "I am fighting for you." The plan began to take shape. Tomorrow they would strike. Tomorrow they would do the impossible. Tomorrow a princess would betray her blood for her heart. And nothing would ever be the same. The stolen shuttle rose through the atmosphere of Antares Prime, carrying 12 soldiers and 1 traitor princess toward the enemy fleet. Inside, sat beside, her hand gripping his so tightly her fingers had gone white. She was about to attack her own brother. She was about to betray everything she had been raised to believe, and she had never felt more certain of anything in her life. "Remember the plan," said to his team. "We land in the shuttle bay, we fight our way to the reactor core, and we destroy it. Simple." One of the soldiers laughed nervously. "You forgot the part where we probably all die." "Nobody dies today," replied. "That is an order." The shuttle approached the flagship, transmitted the clearance code she had memorized as a child. The ship's defense systems recognized her authorization. The shields opened to let them through. "We are in," the pilot announced. They landed in the main shuttle bay. Soldiers rushed to greet what they thought was a returning princess. They found something very different. The first wave of guards fell before they could raise their weapons. Steam moved like water, flowing through the shuttle bay with deadly efficiency. Fought beside them, her plasma rifle finding targets she had once called friends. Each kill hurt her. She felt every death like a knife in her chest. But she did not stop. She could not stop. The faces of the human children underground pushed her forward. The memory of trust kept her moving. They reached the main corridor that led to the reactor core. And then the alarm started. "Intruders in Sector 7. All units respond." The element of surprise was gone. Now it was just a race against time. They fought through corridor after corridor, leaving bodies behind them. Took a plasma burn to his leg but kept running. One soldier fell, then another. The team grew smaller with every battle. Finally, they reached the reactor room. The door was sealed with a heavy lock that required a royal authorization code. Stepped forward and pressed her hand against the scanner. The door recognized her DNA, her rank, her blood. The door opened. And there, standing in front of the glowing reactor, was Prince. He was tall and beautiful, like all royalty. His silver eyes looked at with a mixture of amusement and disgust. In his hand, he held a plasma pistol aimed directly at her heart. "Sister," he said, "I knew you would come. I have been waiting for you." His voice was steady, but her heart was racing. "It is over. Let us destroy the reactor and end this war." Laughed. It was an ugly sound full of contempt. "End the war? Why would I want to end the war? This war has made me powerful. Father is old and weak. When I bring him your body and tell him how you betrayed our people, he will name me his heir. You would kill your own sister." "You are not my sister anymore," raised his pistol. "You are just another human lover, a traitor, a disgrace to our blood." He fired, but was faster. He threw himself in front of, taking the plasma bolt in his chest. He fell backward, crashing into her arms. "No!" screamed. She caught him as he fell. Blood was spreading across his shirt, dark and terrible. His eyes were wide with pain, but he was still alive. Barely. "Go," he whispered. "Finish it." Looked at who was aiming for a second shot. She looked at the reactor, glowing with deadly energy. She looked at, dying in her arms. and something inside her broke. All her life she had been taught to be cold, to be calculating, to think before acting, but in that moment she was none of those things. She was just a woman protecting the man she loved. She dropped gently to the floor, grabbed the rifle from his hands, and charged at her brother with a scream that echoed through the entire ship. Fired, but his aim was thrown off by her speed. The bolt burned past her ear. She did not slow down. She crashed into him with all her strength, knocking the pistol from his hand. They fought like wild animals. Brother and sister, once playing together as children, now trying to kill each other. Was smaller and weaker, but she was fighting for something more than power. She was fighting for love. She took hits that would have dropped a human. She felt bones crack in her arm. Blood filled her mouth, but she did not stop. Finally, she found his dropped pistol. She pointed it at his head. "Yield," she said, her voice broken and raw. "Yield, brother." Looked at her with hatred. "You would kill me, your own blood." "For them I would kill anyone." She meant it, every word. Something in her eyes must have convinced him, because slowly raised his hands. "Fine," he said, "you win for now." The remaining human soldiers secured him while ran back to. He was still breathing, but barely. The wound was terrible. He whispered, "The reactor." She looked at the glowing core, then at him. "I will not leave you." "You have to." He tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. "Save your people, save my people. That is more important than me." "Nothing is more important than you," she said, and she meant that too. But she knew he was right. If she did not destroy the reactor, everything they had fought for would be lost. She kissed him gently, tasting blood and tears. "Wait for me," she said. Then she ran to the reactor controls and entered the overload sequence. The evacuation was chaos, carried over her shoulder, running through corridors filled with smoke and screaming. The remaining human soldiers followed her, dragging the captured behind them. They reached the shuttle bay just as the reactor began its final countdown. They launched into space as the flagship started to break apart behind them. The explosion lit up the sky like a new sun. The fleet, suddenly without leadership, fell into confusion. Human ships from the surface launched a desperate attack, and one by one, the remaining vessels retreated into hyperspace. From the shuttle window, watched them go. The war was not over, but this battle was won. She looked at who was being treated by the team medic. His eyes were closed, but he was still breathing, still fighting. Just like the humans always did. The sun rose over Antares Prime for the first time in months. The bombardment was over. The skies were clear and blue and beautiful. The survivors came out of their tunnels and stood in the light, crying and laughing and holding each other. They had lost so much, but they had survived. Stood among them, no longer a prisoner, no longer a princess, just a woman watching a sunrise with tears on her face. Walked up beside her, leaning on a crutch. His wounds were healing, but it would take time. He put his arm around her shoulders. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we rebuild," he said. "Now we make peace. Now we show the galaxy that humans can work together instead of fighting. My father will not accept that easily." "Then we will convince him," smiled. "We convinced you, did we not?" Laughed. It was a real laugh, full of joy and hope and everything she had learned from these remarkable humans. "Yes," she said, "you did." She leaned her head against his shoulder and watched the sun climb higher into the sky. Behind them, the survivors of Antares Prime were already starting to work, clearing debris, tending to the wounded, planting the first seeds in soil that had been burned black. They were building a new future, a future where hatred could become love, where enemies could become family, where a princess who once despised humans could stand beside them as a sister and a friend. It would not be easy. Peace never was. There would be more battles, more struggles, more sacrifices. But as stood in the light of that new dawn, holding the hand of the man who had captured her heart on the battlefield, She knew one thing for certain. Hope always won. And humanity, in all its stubborn, beautiful, impossible glory, would never stop fighting for it.